Good Monday morning. It is Monday, January 6, 2025. Welcome to the Dr. J Vlog series. And because it's Monday, we get to deal with everyone's favorite subject matter, mathematics and statistics. Wait, don't hang up, don't leave, wait! Don't skip school. This should be quite interesting and fun, and trust me, I won't make it too difficult to understand today, for sure. But let's jump right in, shall we? Today's subject matter I hope you'll find fascinating. The odds of being born, or more accurately, what were the odds that you had to overcome in order to be born? Because here you are, you won, somehow, you did it. Okay, let's talk about that. From a statistical and mathematical standpoint, to some degree. But first, a little bit more philosophically, what guarantees do we have in this life? What are we promised? Of course, we can debate that question endlessly, can't we? But here's something I think we can all agree on. The fact that we are here, the fact that we were born, promises us all one specific thing, shall we say. Death. Our ultimate demise. And I don't need to be morbid about that at all. The point is simply that I'm 100% confident that I'll die at some point in this century. I'd be willing to bet all of my money on that particular outcome. But of course there's a bit of a catch-22. If I miraculously end up winning that bet, then I'm going to have a rather difficult time collecting on that bet. Right? Anyway, as long as you and I are here, we can ponder the ultimate question. Why are we here? Indeed, why are you here? I don't mean here watching a YouTube video necessarily, but I mean, why are you here in that more profound sense? And if you've ever wondered why you're here, I have some really good news. I have an answer. Well, I have one type of answer, a mathematical answer. So restating the question, what are the odds of the unique you being here? Or what are the odds that you conquered in order to get here? Most commonly, let's assume two individuals met. We'll call them mom and dad. Obviously there are other ways that this can happen, but let's just go with the old story. And they had at least one procreative interaction. Generated a fertilized egg, the fetus gestated successfully, you survived childbirth, and voila, here you are. Well done. Now, if we were to multiply that result by 150,000 or so generations of random, but obviously successful reproductive meetings in your lineage that preceded your parents' decision to copulate, well, what are the odds of all that happening? Well, we can actually calculate that roughly, and they seem to be something along the order of 1 times 10 to the power of almost 2.7 million. We usually don't think about that, or even know who our ancestors are or were, beyond maybe our grandparents or our great-grandparents. But really at the individual level, our own birth, the creation of our own life, that's perhaps our greatest triumph after all. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean specifically is that if you think about it, whatever your athletic prowess, your abilities, your achievements might be, we know this, you came in first at least once in your life. You arguably won the single most important race that you ever engaged in, and that was, of course, the fertilization of an egg. In other words, the part of you that was a single sperm broke through the zona pellucida, the egg's second thicker layer, and successfully attached to the ovum, thereby creating the fertilized egg, or zygote, that eventually became you. Of course, you lacked a brain stem, so you don't remember any of that. It'd be amazing if you somehow did remember. Anyway, actually, I've understated the odds of your being born. What I haven't considered then, or what didn't I take into consideration in calculating these particular odds of the unique you being born? Well, that figure of 1 times 10 to the power of 2.7 million does not include, does not factor in the odds of the universe coming into being in the first place. All of the necessary events that produced our solar system, that eventually produced our planet, Earth, at that sort of Goldilocks distance from the sun. Eventually the emergence of life and evolution and so forth. So statistically speaking, it's virtually incalculable. Think about the vastness of the universe and every interaction of every kind that had to have occurred before you were born. Everything aligned perfectly to produce you and me. And so we can have radically different interpretations about that particular outcome. Let me just share a couple. On the one hand, you can take the perspective of the Romanian philosopher Emil Cioran, who penned back in 1973, The Trouble with Being Born, when he was 62, by the way, same age as yours truly. And Cioran once wrote, we are nothing, but a divine mistake, a cosmic accident, something that never should have happened. End quote. Not surprisingly, he doubted the authenticity of happiness, and instead he viewed pain as essentially the beating heart of our existence. Cioran's main question was indeed, what is the meaning of life? Something that we typically consider on Sundays, right? And yet he was equally perplexed and asked, why do we continually search for meaning that inevitably escapes us? But perhaps most radically of all, he viewed the procreation process itself as an ethical crime, where we selfishly bring into existence and consciousness a being who had no choice in the matter, and thereby we subject that being to a world of inevitable pain. So yes, you can rail with unceasing anger against the tyranny of being born without your consent, and some do. Here's another perspective. The odds that you overcame to come into being, to exist, in my view, reflect the closest thing I can imagine to describe what a miracle might look like. Especially in my case, I was always told by my older siblings that I was essentially an accident, as well as a bit of a mutation, a Darwinian mistake, as it were. But that's neither here nor there. In general, though, when we talk about the phrase, or we use that phrase, the miracle of birth, I think from a statistical standpoint, we're vastly underestimating the case for arriving on the planet as Homo sapiens, however long that may be, for however many years and decades we might be promised. So, in conclusion, anyone can be a philosophical pessimist or nihilist if you so choose. We can certainly consider the question as to why we are here, and we can arrive at vastly different conclusions depending upon our perspective. I'm simply saying that statistically speaking, I'd stress that we can at least appreciate the miracle of birth and the odds that had to be overcome in order for us to attain our present selves, our life forms. And most crucially, in my view, that miracle opens the door that affords every other possibility or opportunity at our disposal. If the door had remained shut, we simply wouldn't be here. And finally, since we are here, we can evaluate the odds of living well, the quality of life, our meaning, and so forth, and our chances of dying in the next while, based on information and knowledge. And of course, that requires energy and effort. Everything does. Or the second law of thermodynamics inevitably takes over our lives. And our lives, in fact, just eventually fall apart. But that's another story for another day. For now, I'm simply encouraged and inspired by the miracle of birth, of our existence. And indeed, for the moment, may you and yours continue to create peace in your lives and nurture love in your hearts. And I'll see you tomorrow when we deal with, for the first time, music and the arts. See you then.